Israelis are uniting to fight a war of survival against a genocidal enemy. Even civilian ventures are turning to the needs of this fight. Israel's famed venture capital economy is putting its money towards victory. We're joined by Roy Geva Glasberg here in studio, managing partner at AnD Ventures, and you've already raised about $70 million for the effort, from what I understand. Describe exactly what your venture firm is doing.
So I'll speak briefly about our venture firm because I think that's the least interesting thing to talk about today. We're a studio-based fund basing on a lot of years of building a lot of the Google Global Startup programs. And we united kind of in Israel 4 years ago and try to break the mold of what venture capital should look like and the level of commitment. But again, today I think...
Like, what are you doing as far as like the efforts, the $70 million?
Exactly. So we've done two main efforts. One is as a fund. We've raised $70 million to date as a fund, and we're increasing it to about $100 million, so we can continue supporting early stage founders in Israel. But I think that's the side story. I think what we're pushing forward is, without being acknowledged as a fund, without being acknowledged as an organization, we've united a group out of the global tech ecosystem, mainly in New York. And what we're doing today is we are receiving applications. We've received over 100 applications from startups in Israel that their founders were called to service. And we are raising money for them. We are bringing them business opportunities. We're making sure that after this war, they actually have a company to come back to, which I think is the most important thing we're doing today.
I mean, that's a major challenge, because everyone's always been focused on the here and now, this fight for survival that was thrust on us. This day after, no one's really thought that far ahead. How wide scale is the issue that we're facing right now on the economic side?
So my bias is, and I truly believe this, the Army, Shabak, Mossad, they all know how to deal with the current threat. We were caught unprepared, and there'll be a lot of resolutions made after. But they know how to deal with our enemies. They've been training that for many, many years. The existential threat I see for Israel is what happens 4 or 5 years from now. Take the metaphor of being a farmer. You need to plant the seeds every season, so the year later you have the crop. And Israel has seen an amazing growth in the amount of startups that have IPO'd, that have risen to scale. And now I see more and more founders dropping their companies, dropping their life dream to go and serve. So it means that as long as this continues, we're going to lose on that potential, that seeding opportunity we have to make sure that there's no economic crisis for Israel, who's so dependent on the economic value coming from this technology being developed. This is where, at least for us, we chose to put our focus and where we can probably be most impactful.
So how is your fund working here to prevent that sort of longer-term damage?
So I have 2 jobs today, as most Israelis do, and maybe that what makes Israeli founders most unique is that they always have a day job and a night job. The fund is fine. The fund is making its investments, and it's moving forward. We've launched an initiative called Frontline. You can find us on frontlinein.com. And this is where we've opened up the entire early stage startup ecosystem in Israel. Every founder can apply. Everyone will have the professional support, and basically introduced and bringing investors, and there's so many of them around the world who want to support and want to invest, to make sure that they are financially sustainable. So if this takes 3 more months, 6 more months, or a year, they have enough gas in the car to continue driving as they come back. So it's our responsibility to safeguard them during this time.
So $70 million is absolutely not pocket change. Where's the cash coming from?
So most of our investors are US-based, but I think the potential is about tenfold that. And what we're doing in Frontline is we are actually not touching money. We're connecting directly between investors and Israeli founders, just to keep it clean, keep it focused, and keep it scalable. Just from my conversations in the last month, there's hundreds of millions of dollars from US-based investors who want to invest in Israeli tech, believe in Israeli tech, and they're not doing this because this is a giveaway. They see this as a long-term investment, strategic investment. So there's a lot of opportunity there for investments, for professional support, for business opportunities that the founders now don't have the attention for. And this is where we come in, because we do have the attention for, and we will keep them safe until they come back.
Now, you mentioned there's probably about a tenfold sized pool out
Yes.
there. How much is needed ultimately?
So I looked at what the Innovation Authority launched out, which is a $200 million shekels, I wish it was dollar, fund. There are other funds being raised as we speak. It's not enough. And we need to be more scalable, and we need to be more focused and more aggressive without the personal interest of what organization I come from or what business do I represent. We need an injection, in my opinion, of close to $500 million in the next year from investors into Israeli companies. Most of it would have happened normally without the war. We just have to take into consideration that now we're supplementing what it should have been a normal business process that would have taken place anyway.
Ultimately, there's going to be a lot of discussion of triaging the losses economically rather than attempting to prevent all of them. Are there sectors that you feel are going to be the hardest hit?
It's difficult to project because Israel has been so good in so many things. But I do see the immediate software, B2B, scalable software startups that are going to be impacted immediately. And, you know, moving to the world of early stage startups, every day matters, every dollar matters. And right now we're taking probably the weakest part of the chain of Israeli tech, and we're putting a double burden on them, as if what they had until now, which was kind of fighting against all odds as a preliminary status, now we're adding another element with their founders, team members being called to service. So that's where I think we should be putting our efforts, and that's, I think, we should be focusing on.
And I guess following up from that, are there also some opportunities in a sense here? Because there's going to be economic restructuring, as you mentioned, things changing around a lot. People I've spoken to already that work in tech are saying, well, we're changing our entire setup to a security-focused industry. Is there going to be a growth of that might end up being a boon to the Israeli economy that saves us from feeling this damage?
I think what we've done in COVID is already miraculous by itself. Israel is an online software solution-producing country. So when a lot of countries shut down and in other countries, I'd say the innovation there stopped or diminished significantly, Israel continued to grow. So even now, our market is the US, our market, our international markets. We do software online services that can be scaled very, very quickly. So I'm not seeing a lot of changes, and I'm not seeing a loss of opportunity. But I think this is kind of where we're calling for brotherhood. So what you've done is your day job, that's fine, put it aside. What are you doing now to make sure that as a society, as a group, as a startup ecosystem, we're going to continue and growing? And I think this is where we're putting our focus in.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Roy, for the work you're doing to ensure that there is still an economy left after these hard times.
Thank you for the opportunity.